Good morning, welcome to day 19 of Vlogtober. We are in Winnipeg and I have to tell you, it is cold. Yesterday we had a high of 25 degrees at one point. It was beautiful. This morning we opened the door to bring everything out to put in the car and it is blustery. Winnie the Pooh has nothing on this day. It is definitely a blustery day. It is 8 degrees Celsius, but feels like -2. Not kidding. I'm really not kidding. Anyway, we are about to get on with our day. Today we are going to be crossing the border into Saskatchewan, driving from Winnipeg to Moose Jaw. We will be hitting another time change, but this one will be a little bit different. And we will continue on with the day. So I hope that you enjoy the journey with us today. We are just making a quick stop at the local Tim Hortons because we are needing some caffeine. Nathaniel is needing some breakfast. Poor kitty's not very happy right now. But luckily there is a Tim Hortons in Winnipeg and we are going with the old familiar because sometimes, especially when you're needing caffeine, that's exactly what you need to do. What are you going to have this morning, Nathaniel?
A farmer's wrap.
A farmer's wrap and?
Orange juice.
And orange juice. No caffeine for him. He doesn't need it.
I already had the caffeine.
Did you? You're so silly. We are starting our journey today along Portage Avenue, which is one of the main streets in Winnipeg. And Greg is reminiscing about when he used to live in Winnipeg. So he lived here for a year and it was cold, I'm sure. Did you enjoy your time in Winnipeg?
Yes, it was cold though.
And we are hopefully going to pass over, what do you call the ditch? What's it called? The
Duff's Ditch.
Duff's Ditch. And what is Duff's Ditch?
It's the ditch they dug because Winnipeg is prone to flooding. So it drains the water off.
So hopefully when we pass Duff's Ditch, I can point that out. So camera is at the ready. We have stopped to fill up the tank and I am winding my last few minis. I am on number 21, so this is the gorgeous color for day 21 of last year's Beehive Yarns Advent Kit. And just a few more to go and then hopefully, my eyes are still a little bit sore, but hopefully I will get some knitting in. Okay, we are now out of Winnipeg. Unfortunately, we did not see the ditch. It may have gone a little bit more south of where we were, so I can't point that out. But what I can point out is flat land as far as the eye can see. We are definitely in the prairies, and I actually, just before I pressed record, saw a tumbleweed go across the highway. It is so windy. It's dropped down to 6 degrees and we started off at 8. My hands are still warming up actually. Anyway, we are just going to drive. Our drive today is about 6 hours and 10 minutes to the location, so that's our driving time according to the sat nav. And you know, of course we will stop along the way, so we won't be there in 6 hours exactly because it takes us a little bit longer than that. But anyway, we will continue and hopefully I'll see some more tumbleweeds and catch those on tape, because yeah, that was quite a funny thing to see go across the highway. It is so windy outside that the car is just rattling, would you say, Greg? Like it's been...
You can feel it. It's pushing the car. You gotta hold the wheels.
It's really loud. 110 kilometers per hour is the speed limit, which is kind of nice. We're in a kilometer check right now. We're at kilometer 2. This is to keep you awake on the prairies, and they have just a check, and every 1 kilometer you just add another one. So we'll be coming up to another one and I'll turn the camera so you can see it. We are now coming up to kilometer 3. because driving across the prairies can be a little bit monotonous, shall we say. That I guess they want to try and make sure people are staying awake as they continue driving. And we are now coming up to kilometer 4. Are you still awake with us as we continue this drive across? There is a raven, some seagulls. There we are at kilometer 4. Kilometer 4 is somewhere else altogether. This farmer has planted some trees along his property line, which helps to reduce the blowing winds, and that's a nice thing, especially in winter, for people who are driving along the highway. One thing that I'm trying to capture today, and I've been seeing it a lot, but I'm hoping not to throw the camera around in circles and make you sick, but a lot of Canadian geese are starting to get ready to fly south for the winter, and they're flocking up, and they are creating their formations of the V formations, and I'm hoping that at some point I'll be able to get that. So I'll have talked about it now, and then if I can catch it on camera. A few moments ago I saw a really large group of geese preparing, but they were on the other side of the car, so it was a little bit difficult to film. But I'd like to try and see if I can capture that, because that would be something I think that might be interesting for you to see. On this farm here, you can see that they are just planting some new trees so that it reduces the wind and I guess stops soil erosion from crossing across the highway. So smaller trees, at some point they will get a little bit bigger. The other side of the road, these trees are definitely more established. But lots of farms that we are passing, and I gotta say, farming is hard work. You've got to be up really early, and you know, it's an all-in experience. So a lot of respect for farmers. Well, there is still a little bit of color out there, mainly yellows. A lot of these trees are bare and ready for winter, which may strike at any time. But yes, there is a lot of yellow. Yesterday, as we were driving, I was really appreciating the genius behind Emily Foden, who is the dyer of Viola yarns, and I was appreciating her study of color, and you know, she changes her yarns with the seasons and really picks up a lot of the colors that nature brings, and I was just really gaining an appreciation for the way that she dyes yarn. And if you've ever had a skein of Viola yarn, you'll know the genius behind it. Her yarn is absolutely amazing. Here's a little bit more yellow, just some smaller bushes here with yellow. Oh, up in the sky there are a couple of Canada geese. I don't know if I'm capturing them or not. I'm hoping that I'm catching this. In front of us, there is a huge formation of Canada geese, and there's actually several formations of Canada geese, and I'm trying to get them all. There's just so many in the skies. It's unbelievable how many there are, and I'm really hoping that this is focusing. Right now, we're just about to go under several formations, and I'm really hoping that they're hard to see in my little camera screen, but they are all getting ready to fly south for the winter, which is very different from Toronto Canada geese, who tend to want to stay in Toronto all year long. But these are all of the flocks. It's It's awesome to see how many of these formations there are. There are more formations a little bit west too that I can see. So they are all prepping. They know winter is coming and they do not want to stay here. So they're migrating. Maybe they're migrating to Toronto. They're right now flying north as they circle around, but it really is an amazing sight to see all of these Canadian geese flocking up to head south to keep warm. So there they are. It is just after 10 in the morning, and I have to tell you how amazing it is to see all of the Canadian geese gathering and getting their formations ready to fly south. I hope that I was able to catch some interesting footage that is clear enough for you to see, because it was the amount of geese in the skies was just wow. I'm at a loss for words. And but I was thinking as they're doing that, it's 10 in the morning, they probably want to try and get an early start like we did as well, as they are traveling to where they need to be, just like we are. This is the portage diversion, and this would be similar to the, what was it, the ditch?
Duff's ditch.
It would be similar to Duff's ditch, so diverting the water around so that the land doesn't all flood. Greg has just pointed out that there is a grain elevator here, where yesterday I would point out lots of rocks. Today maybe it will be, there's a grain elevator. There's another one. I did see another tumbleweed go across the highway just a few kilometers back, and I missed it again. So I don't think I can hold this like this the entire time, but it would be really funny for you to see a tumbleweed. It's just so fun to watch them. I don't know why, it just is. One of the places I'm sad that we won't be able to visit today is Riding Mountain National Park, and that's because it's a little bit more north of where we're going to be going through. So we'll be going along the Trans-Canada, and Riding Mountain is up here. We have a train going beside us, the opposite direction towards Winnipeg, loaded up, bringing goods to people across Canada. Greg was just telling me that the Manitoba government allows for farmers to use the side of the road to, oh, there was like a dead deer or something, all those ravens were there. Ew. Greg was just telling me that the Manitoba and Saskatchewan governments have a road allowance so that the farmers can bale hay, and these hay bales that you're seeing at the side of the road are from that road allowance. There's also some in the center divide, and there's a train over there as well. And this is a great use, I think, of resources to, rather than just having the land go to waste, it gets harvested and then fed to the agricultural animals for our food system. So, current view, flat, with bales of hay. The wheat fields have all been harvested for the season as people in Manitoba prepare for winter. And you can see the fields have all been plowed down. But if you can imagine, just a couple of months ago, this land would have looked very, very different with waving wheat. The kind that you sort of picture as they do tourist shots. Oh, there was the train we just passed, and it gave a long honk. I guess they're saying hello to you as well. It's actually just because they were going across a crossing. But we're just in a little pocket that looks a little bit different. It's a forested area, short trees, lots of color, which is really lots of yellow. I'm not a huge fan of yellow. If you've tuned into the podcast, you'll know this. But you know what? It adds a bit of color, and I'm really loving this shade of yellow. It kind of matches my raincoat, which I'm still wearing right now. Anyway, that is our current view. Still looking for tumbleweeds to cross our path. I don't know if it'll happen. Maybe I've already seen my quota for the day, and that would be 2. I am just about to wind mini number 24, and then I'll have all of the minis wound. It's about what my brain can handle right now, which is kind of sad. I'm not sure why I'm having a bit of a knitting slump, but we shall see. This is the color of the mini I am about to wind, number 24. This set is going to look so beautiful all knit up. I'm really excited to see how it all translates. The sun is starting to come out right now, so we've got clouds ahead, but some blue skies. Sunglasses have needed to be pulled out in order to facilitate making the drive a little bit more bearable. Anyway, beautiful skies ahead, and it is currently 5 degrees Celsius. I'm glad to be in this car with my nice seat heater rather than outside in that windy, probably a bit of a chill. When I sleep like this, I wake up with such a bad crick in my neck. But little ones, they can sleep pretty much anywhere, can't they? I'm so jealous. All my yarn is wound now, all 24 minis. And so now I have no excuses. I need to really focus on getting the knitting done, and getting past colors 2 and 3 will be my first big challenge. The clouds look really interesting as they hang across the prairies. While it is vast, it is definitely very beautiful. And hopefully you're enjoying today's ride as we continue to head west. We have stopped for a few minutes just to clean off the windshield so you can see a little bit more clearly outside. Of course, it's all about that. To let Scout have a quick walk. Greg needed to take his jacket off. It is 5 degrees. It is chilly, but I have taken the rain jacket off and just down to polar fleece. Today I am wearing my love note and just a t-shirt underneath. It is definitely chilly. Let me just fix the dog's leash, and we'll just walk over here so you can see the fields behind me. But yes, that wind is brisk. Let's just say that it is brisk, and but we are enjoying just getting outside for a few minutes after being in the car. So I'm going to turn around so you can see the fields behind me, and the sun is coming out, which is nice. The clouds today with the gray sky were beautiful colors, but it is nice to drive with the sunshine for sure. Anyway, that is my current view, and fields for as far as the eye can see. Always nice to stop and have a little bit of refreshment. Oh my gosh, that wind almost blew me over. That wind when you're outside catches your breath, and it's just, oh, I'm cold. I did pop into the Petro-Canada, and Nathaniel has some salt and vinegar chips. Miss Vicky's always so good. And I am going to try the spicy dill pickle. I love Miss Vicky's chips. And chips are important for a road trip. If I wasn't calling this vlog Winnipeg to Moose Jaw, I think I would call it the birds, because I have been seeing a lot of birds today. So we did see the Canadian geese. I've now seen a couple of eagles, of course, which I couldn't capture. And then every once in a while I'll look out and I'll see a bunch of ravens gathered. And I just saw another group when the battery died on this. And while I was enjoying my chips, I looked out and I could see this group of ravens. I think it's called a murder of ravens. They were all on a deer carcass, and you could actually see the ribs, the bones of this deer. It was really interesting to see them just picking that animal carcass clean. But hopefully I'll be able to catch, I've seen a lot of ravens, so hopefully I'll be able to catch some ravens on video for you. It is really hard to capture birds on the camera because it's hard to see them through the little screen, but hopefully we'll see some more interesting birds today. But yeah, Winnipeg to Moose Jaw, aka the birds. We are in the last few kilometers of Manitoba. Greg has been very, very kind and has cleaned off the windshield for you, or the windscreen, whichever you prefer. So we are now at the 004 kilometer mark on the right there, and we will soon be entering the province of Saskatchewan. I don't expect much difference in landscape up ahead, but just so you can see, the sky has cleared. It is beautiful and sunny now. Still 5 degrees, so very chilly, definitely very brisk. Anyway, we are coming up on the border of Saskatchewan very shortly. We are in the last few 100 meters of Manitoba, and we will be switching from Manitoba to Saskatchewan. Not only border, but also we will be switching time zones. So there is the Welcome to Saskatchewan, Land of Living Skies. And we are now officially in Saskatchewan. So, welcome. Here is another deer sign, and these deer signs look different too. They again look athletic. They have eyeballs, it looks like, and they look a little bit more like the moose signs where they're charging a little bit. So very, very different signage across the 3 provinces that we have visited so far. As we continue, I guess we'll find out whether the Welcome Center is open or not. We stopped not too long ago, so we probably don't need to stop, but it was a little bit of a surprise. We were really wanting to have a break yesterday, and when the Manitoba Center was closed, it was a bit of a shock to the system. But sometimes that's the way it is, especially during these times of COVID. If we take a look at my iPhone, it now says 12:23, and that's because this is connected to all the cell phone towers. We have just changed time zones. So when we switched from Manitoba into Saskatchewan, or when we drove from Manitoba into Saskatchewan, the time zones changed. And Saskatchewan works on standard time, which right now we're still in daylight savings time. We are now reverting back to the time we woke up to yesterday morning in Ontario. So we've gone back an hour, even though we've gone farther west, which is kind of a little bit mind-boggling and sort of mixes. I'm having enough trouble with the time changes. So today we will be back on the basically what I would consider Eastern Standard, or sorry, Eastern Daylight Time. And then tomorrow, when we cross over into Alberta, we will go back forward an hour, and then we will likely have another time change, and then we will be forward by 2 more hours tomorrow. So I'm just gonna get all messed up. I have no idea what time it is. So thankfully, we've got devices because they'll tell us when it's time to eat, drink, be merry, all that stuff. We are now in Saskatchewan and we are along the rail lines, and along the rail lines are grain elevators. And what happens is the farmers would bring their wheat to the grain elevator, and as the trains come in, they would then fill. I hear a raven. There are a couple of ravens up over top of the grain elevator. Anyway, the grain elevator would fill the train cars with wheat, and then that wheat would be brought to people across Canada and probably North America as well. So here is the grain elevator. There are a couple of ravens at the top there that are flying around. They are so big. So this is Moosomin, and along the railway tracks, each of the grain elevators has the town name of where they are. So I guess the trains can know where they are, and grain elevators are becoming a little bit more fewer and farther between. So I definitely wanted to make sure that I captured this for you today. And there are the birds that I keep talking about, these ravens. They are just so big, little scavengers they are. The agreement was I got to stop and see the grain elevator, but then I had to drive after we saw it. So you guys are worth it for sure. It's really interesting to see these telephone poles. I guess they're telephone poles. There's electrical poles on the other side. But look how low to the ground they are along the railway track. Some are really low, some are much higher. I mean, some of them looks like you can touch them, so maybe you can zip line along them. I'm not sure, but something really, really interesting to find out about, I guess. But these ones upcoming, just so low. I mean, maybe these days you don't need a landline as much as you used to, but very, very low to the ground. I believe we are coming up to a co-op, and there are silos that have seed in here, and farmers can come and pick up their seed. And I think on the other side of the co-op is another grain elevator. So I'll zoom in to see what we can see as we pass here. Yeah, it looks like a grain elevator. And then those silos that are at the side of the first one, maybe that's an older grain elevator. Looks like that's where they would have had the seed. And this is another grain elevator here. And all of those silos would hold different things. Truck in the way. When we first crossed into Saskatchewan, we saw the sign that said Saskatchewan, land of the living skies, and the sky has been changing all day. It is beautiful blue right now, and white wispy clouds at the side, and then ahead of us, very few clouds actually, but beautiful blue sky. In the fields ahead are some hay bales. Along the side of the railway here, you can see some railway ties. I believe in Toronto they were switching all the railway ties to concrete ones, but I guess the concrete ones here don't weather as well as the wooden ones do. So the farmers will come along and pick up the bales of hay and take those for cattle feed. But we'll just continue along Highway 1. Driving, driving, driving. We have just stopped to fuel up, and I've seen both extremes. The person in the car in front of me has gotten into her car. She has a toque on, I don't know if she's got mittens on or not, but she's got a toque on. And then in the rest station, or in front of the gas station where you go to pay, there's a person who has their convertible with the top down parked outside. So toque, convertible, top down. It's about 6 degrees now. I think I'd aim for keeping the toque on my head rather than driving around with the top off. Just like yesterday as we were approaching Winnipeg, as we are approaching Regina, I can see the skyline of Regina. We are just about to take a southern bypass around Regina to head towards Moose Jaw, but in front are the skyscrapers of Regina. I'll try and get a better shot in a few moments. Over to my right, I have a better view of the skyline of Regina, and we are doing a bypass because we are heading to Moose Jaw, and we will be taking an alternate route, not going through the city. We did that city route thing yesterday through Winnipeg, and of course we arrived right in the middle of rush hour. Lots of baseball diamonds here. Greg used to joke around when he lived in Saskatchewan. He lived in Saskatchewan for a few years, and I'll just point it towards him. Hey Greg, what's summer?
Summer. That's the day we play baseball.
And there's the diamonds for it. So we're just south of the city now, and you can see that there are many houses that they've built, and in the distance a little farther in are the taller buildings of Regina. But these are all looking like they're fairly new homes, new builds that people have moved out to so that they can work in the city and then maybe have a little bit of a bigger house. So there is Regina there, and this looks sort of like some wetlands and some farmlands. One thing I noticed, a couple of spots on the drive today, one spot in Manitoba and another in Saskatchewan, they actually had moose crossing signs, and that threw me for a loop because I never realized that there were moose in the prairies. Not as much as in northern Ontario. Anyway, bye-bye Regina. Sorry we didn't have a chance to visit, but we gotta go west. I don't want to be rude, but if we had wanted to bypass Toronto, it probably would have taken at least an hour. Bypassing Regina took us maybe 5 minutes. So we were able to do a bypass route, a highway bypass that saved us having to drive through the city and probably, you know, having to stop at stoplights and any frustrations. I am happy to say that we did drive through Winnipeg, although yesterday it was a little bit of a stress point, but for today, because we're not staying in Regina, it is better to bypass the city. It's cold here, but they've already got the snow plows out. We're not sure why, but yeah, the snow plow is behind us. He actually put it down to the ground for a moment. Maybe they're practicing. They're practicing for the snow. Maybe snow is supposed to come in the next day or two, because I tell you, it was cold today. And way off in the distance, that is Regina. You can definitely see it across this landscape. Well, good to know that they are preparing for winter, which will come at any time now, and snowplow drills, always a good idea, right? I don't know if you can see way over to the right, there is a train. It's a long train, and it's got red cars, different cars on it, but it's amazing how far the eye can see. And yeah, there's a train there. We are now alongside that long train. Train cars look a lot different than they used to. Now they stack them up because they're all the shipping crates or shipping containers, and look a lot different than when they used to fill up the tankers and the cars. Here's the train that I was talking about. And it goes on forever. We've almost caught up to the front of the train, and it's now south of us because we crossed over a bridge over top of it. But it is a long one for sure. We are just approaching Moose Jaw, and you can see that the terrain is a little bit more hilly than it has been throughout the day, and this is really great for agriculture of animals. So we've seen some cows, some horses, not as much wheat growing in this area. There's also potash that is mined in Saskatchewan, and just a little bit south of where we are, maybe a little more southwest actually, is Drumheller, and those are the Badlands, and that is where they have found dinosaur remains. We will not be going to see Drumheller, unfortunately. We need to keep on the way to Vancouver. We are on a bit of a timeline, plus we have the cat and the dog with us, so that makes it a little bit more challenging for this trip. But just a little bit of a different landscape for you to see as we continue through Saskatchewan. We'll also be driving through Saskatchewan tomorrow and into Alberta, so you'll see some more changes as we continue. And now we're back up to more prairie looking land up here, just in that few moments. We have settled into our hotel room for the evening. Scout and Tasha are settling in nicely. We've been here actually for a little bit. We were doing a bit of legwork for our Vancouver stay, so where we're going to stay for the first couple of nights while we wait until we get possession of our new house. And the furniture isn't being delivered till the 23rd, so we don't want to sleep on the floor of the new house, which we would get Friday, but sleeping on the floor, no thank you. So we have booked a hotel room for Vancouver for 2 nights, and then I was also in touch with the internet provider tonight, and they still can't find the house. So hopefully they will figure that out tomorrow or by tomorrow so that we can set up our internet service. Scout is rubbing herself against the wall right now. Greg and Nathaniel have gone to pick up dinner. Tonight we are going to have donairs. So Nathaniel is having a traditional Greek hero. I am having a Canadian maple donair, and Greg is having an East Coast donair. They just sounded so yummy. So they've gone to the restaurant to pick that up. It was a long day. I am now on my 3rd battery of the day, and I will spend this evening going through, cutting out footage. There's lots of stuff that I wanted to share with you today. I think the main things that we saw today, Scout is being so silly. The main things that we saw today were the grain elevator, so we're really excited to share that with you. The snowplow. Yes, it was cold today, but no snow yet. Oh my gosh, tomorrow if there's snow, I will completely freak out. It's always possible though, you never know. But seeing that snowplow made Greg and I laugh today. But we had a good day, a good drive. It started off really, really cold, but you can see the beautiful sunset that we are having outside the hotel room right now. I thought that we were back in Ontario time when we did the time change. We're actually 2 hours behind Ontario time. I'm so messed up right now. I have no idea what time it is. I think it's Tuesday. It is currently 6:35 p.m. Saskatchewan time, which is standard time. When we go into Alberta tomorrow, we'll stay in the same time zone. So that will at least be one good constant to have. And then when we hit British Columbia, I'm not sure where, we will then switch to Mountain Time or Pacific Time, I guess. And we will then be 3 hours behind Eastern Daylight Time. So yeah, we won't be standard, we'll still be daylight. And oh my gosh, I hope we stay daylight forever. I know that there's been issues with the time change. I hate the time change every year. I'd rather just stay in daylight savings and have this beautiful daylight. Anyway, I am going to end this for the day. I hope that you have enjoyed our drive through Manitoba and into Saskatchewan today. And tomorrow is Saskatchewan, Alberta, and then just a touch inside BC. Tomorrow we are aiming to get to Golden, BC. So busy drive ahead of us tomorrow. We're going to be getting into the mountains, but today, all about the prairies. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye. We just had an amazing supper. So amazing that Nathaniel now has hiccups. We ordered from Prairie Donair. Nathaniel had a traditional Greek hero, and Greg and I shared a maple donair and an East Coast donair. And that's only because I couldn't decide which of the two that I wanted. And I have to tell you, it was just one of the most delicious meals I have ever had. So if you're ever in the prairies, and I believe there's one in Sault Ste. Marie as well, and you really want the hiccups, you have to order something yummy from Prairie Donair, because it was so good, wasn't it?
Yep.